I'm very happy to introduce my friend Sophie Helenek. You're probably all familiar with the Dos Equis commercial, where it's the most interesting man in the world. Well, this is the most interesting woman that I've ever met. Sophie and I met in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Dr. Feltus and I were in the lift line, and there was another guy, and there were three of us, and we had one room in the quad chair. And how would I be so lucky that she was a single, and all I had to do was try to fend off the other two guys for her attention. She then proceeded to tell me, I haven't skied in 20 years, and so you have to go a little slow for me. And I said, okay, don't worry about that, it's okay. And she was the first one down the tree line. The rest of us were, she says, oh, my technique's not so good. So that was, my first inkling that she had quite a bit of talent. Sophie is a young kid who was quite an accomplished tennis player. In fact, I was looking up today that she, when she was 12 years old, played against Emily Marismo, is that how you pronounce her name? Yes, who won Wimbledon and the Australian Open. Wow. And I said, well, did you beat her? And she said, she was a year older than me. No, I didn't. Sophie then became a judo expert and qualified for the French All-Star team. Was quite successful when she was 14, 16. Then at her early 20s, she decided she wanted to become a champion at something, and so she took up fencing. And in the first 3 months, she qualified for the World Championships. And I said, well, how did you do? And she said, well, not that well. And she said, but the next year, our team came in third. It's like, okay, well, I guess she got that sport down, so she gave up on that. Sophie came to New York in 2004, speaking no English, and went to work for Credit Lyonnais as a mathematician, and was quite successful at that, evidently, and then she became a portfolio manager. And in her spare time, she decided to take up rugby. Now, you have a look at her. She doesn't look like a rugby player to me, but evidently they did quite well. In 2006, Sophie was on vacation in Ecuador, and some of the people she was with said, we should go climb this mountain, which was the tallest active volcano, I believe, in the world. Which she did, but as she describes it to me, she showed up a little bit ill-prepared to climb this 20,000-foot mountain, and that she had a Rite Aid poncho as her equipment, and so I guess her crewmates were helpful in outfitting her. So that got her hooked on climbing and launched her career. Before she climbed Mount Everest, she, as a warm-up, and to get her technical skills, she climbed 5 peaks in Bolivia that were between 18 and 20,000 feet in 7 days, which I'm still trying to get up Lantern Hill. And then in 2008, Sophie summited Mount Everest. In the next couple of years, she did 7 first ascents in Peru and was recognized in the American Alpine Journal as being quite unique with those particular feats. In 2011, she climbed K2, which is actually where she met her husband. And for some of you might know in 2008, 11 people died climbing K2, and the statistic there is that 1 in 4 people perish. Someplace I'm going to leave off my bucket list, but Sophie's going to talk about that tonight. She also then, that year, climbed what's called Broad Peak, which is abutting K2, and she spent the next 80 out of 90 days above 15,000 feet. And then climbed 3 more in that 5-month period, climbing 5 of the top 12 peaks in the world in a 5-month period. She's also, since she's had a child, has taken to writing children's books, and she won the Creative Child Book of the Year this year, and the Mom's Choice Award. So you can say that at age 36, rather accomplished, and I can't wait to see what the next 15 years can look like. But her motto is anything is possible, And I think you'll be quite interested in her story. And after bragging about her like this, I just want to tell you that she's afraid of cows.
Thank you all for being here tonight with me. I'm absolutely delighted to share with you my Broad Peak NK2 story. It was one of the most challenging adventures in my life. It was the ultimate test, psychological and physically speaking. So my motto is everything is possible. I never limit myself to what I know, to what I should know, and what I should be doing. I always try to think beyond my comfort zone, do not hesitate to reinvent myself, and dare to do. In 2006, I did climb Cotopaxi, and I see the world upside down. 2008, I climbed Everest. I was the youngest French woman to climb Mount Everest. So after I climbed Mount Everest, I wanted to go back to climb another 8,000 meters. The game can be really tough and anything can happen at any moment. The last thing you want is being stuck in a situation that you are totally unprepared but without any skills. So I spent the last 2 years, so from 2009 to 2010, to enhance my climbing skill set. I learned many different climbing types, including how to work on mixed climbing, which is rock and ice, different type of steepness, and I was able to actually get the skill that I could just climb whatever I want. I actually learned to read the mountain itself. I was lucky enough to have a mentor who would really try to challenge me in any way possible. For instance, in this climb, he's like, Sophie, we're gonna climb this mountain. You have to find a way. You have to find the best safe way. I'm like, all right, well, doesn't seem pretty safe to me and seems pretty tough. But difficult doesn't mean impossible. Actually, if you look a little bit closer, then you're able to see a little Grua here. And that's the way we just lead to the summit. And that's why it was important. It's because on those 8,000 meters, which is 26,000 feet, you have to be able not only to react well, but as well to be able to be creative and know how to find another route if necessary. So all this training took about 2 years, then I was ready. 2011, I came up with this challenge of climbing 5 peaks above 8,000 meters in 5 months. It's never been done by any woman before, but I was feeling really comfortable with it because I was feeling prepared to the unexpected. So I start my challenge by climbing Sho'oyu, which is in Tibet, China. It's the 6th highest peak in the world. 2 weeks later, I went to Nepal and I summited Lhotse, which is the 4th highest peak in the world. Those 2 climbs were very important for me because it really allowed to appreciate my physical and mental strengths, but as well to appreciate how my ability to tolerate altitude, high altitude. Then I'm back to Kathmandu. I'm ready to go to climb Broad Peak and K2. They're both big giant mountains in Pakistan. And I went to see my friend Lagba. He was going to climb K2, and I tried to convince him to climb Broad Peak with me. After some reflection, he actually accepted. We eventually climbed Broad Peak together and K2. It's a big deal because when you climb one mountain, it takes so much out of you. It's so demanding. So you take the risk to spend too much energy in this first mountain to run out of gas to climb your second mountain. So when you arrive to Islamabad, you're not remotely close to Broad Peak yet, which is going to be my first climb. You have to drive for 2 days on the Karakoram Highway, which is like that. Then you have to drive 1 day on the Death Road. You have a major roadfall here, very dangerous. And then you have to trek 100 kilometers. Initially, you start your trek at about 4,000 feet. You can see some fields, and then as you go along, then no more fields, then you just have sand, rock, and a river. Then no more river, now you actually walk on a glacier. It's actually pretty tricky to not get lost in this glacier. You have those beautiful lakes with milky water. You see the surrounding, you can see the mountains start getting higher and higher. Then you have to cross rivers, glacial rivers, and then I finally see, for the first time, Broad Peak. The very next day, when we arrived at Broad Peak, we saw a summit window. A summit window is, you have the weather forecast, and the weather forecast predict a good weather for 24 hours to 36 hours at the summit. Lakpa and I, we decided to go for the summit, which is extremely unusual because we, like all the climbers who just arrived like us at base camp, they're not even thinking going in this mountain for the next few days because you need to acclimatize. The acclimatization is a very long and tedious leapfrog process. You're going up during the day and down at night. You cannot rush it. You have to give enough time to your body to get exposed to altitude to boost your red cells. There's no shortcut. Lakpa and I, we're a little bit different. We actually have the ability, natural ability to tolerate altitude. It's our makeup. And we still have a little bit of acclimatization from our previous climb. So we decided to go for the summit. Going for the summit means we're going to be the first one to actually be on the mountains. We're going to have to break the trail. Breaking the trail, as you can see, it's very demanding. Every step counts. Demanding physically, time consuming. It takes a lot out of you. So whatever you think is going to take 5 hours, you can literally triple it. So it takes 15 hours. We finally reached our camp 2. And we were feeling good. We skipped camp 1 because we were feeling good, so we moved up. We had camp 2. We were about like 20,000 feet. And we were really feeling good, so we decided to keep going to the next step, camp 3. It's about 23,000 feet. And here we go. My alpine climb started paying off. My skills are here. We did the whole thing in alpine style. We have to deal with rock, we have to deal with space, we have to deal with ice, we have to deal with steep snow. And it was okay. We still getting a little bit tired. Finally, almost at camp 3. But when you're at camp 3, just a field of snow, well, you have to dig it. You have to dig your tent platform. So you have to be able to keep enough energy to actually set a safe spot for your tent. That is K2 on the background. So we were still, like now we're about 22,000 feet. And we were still feeling really good. So we decided to go for the summit. We were going to the summit, and then we got caught in the major windstorm. No, without any hesitation, we just ran down. We went up to above 24,000 feet. Next thing you know, we're going back down to base camp at 15,000 feet. That's me going down. We did a good call because you see that is actually the Broad Peak being snow-capped by those high winds. On the way down, we saw like major avalanches. And then finally, we start seeing our base camp. You see the tents here? That's our base camp. After a few more days of waiting for good weather, we have a second opportunity to go for the summit. That time, we go to Camp 2, everything's good. Then Camp 2 to Camp 3, we have a windstorm. But we had this feeling of if we were able to go above the windstorm, above the cloud, then it would be fine. We were right above the cloud, above about 21,000 feet. Then no more windstorm. The thing is, as we were going up, the snow started getting deeper and softer up to our knees. That's never a good sign. That's avalanche signs. Then we start looking around. We could see now there was no tent. We look, we start digging like we were avalanche dogs. We couldn't find any tent. Our tent just been wiped out by the avalanche. The weather, like the nights start falling, we have to go down. We go down so our summit is cancelled. We go down to Camp 2, and then we go down to base camp. The great thing when you're actually climbing, you have the unique opportunity to meet with the locals and understanding their culture. It's part of the gear. You even learn a little bit their language. You try to understand where they're coming from. That is me dancing, improvising. The very next day, actually, we just saw a summit window, and I was back in the mountain with Lagna. So that's our Camp 2. About 20,000 feet. Then that's on the way of Camp 3. And now we're going to about 23,000 feet. That is the view from our camp. That day, we're gonna go for the summit again. I was pretty excited because our summit day should have been the 14th of July, which is a French National Day. I'm like, oh, how proud I would be. So you do actually climb by night. And why summit days are important to climb by night for many reasons. First of all is the snow is better, it's consolidated. So therefore you have less avalanches. You have less chance of rockfall because the ice around the rock just make them link to each other. The snow itself, the consistency is better. And the most important thing is you need to be at the summit in the morning because in the afternoon the weather pattern changed. So in the ideal target in every climber's mind is try to reach a summit between 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and you can go down as fast as you can. So we did start at 9 p.m. shooting for 15 hours straight to the summit and then about 7 hours to go down. So when I'm talking about summit day, I'm talking about over 24 hours of climbing. The issue was on that day, we just had a lot of avalanches. Therefore, the snow was not prime, and it took us such a long time. And then I was getting colder and colder and colder to a point that I could not feel my feet anymore. So I sit. Lakpa was behind me, he came over, and he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I cannot feel my feet anymore. He's like, really? I was at the time almost at above 25,000 feet. I removed my big boots, my sock. My feet naked. And we always carry a stove with us, which is crazy because every little thing represents a certain weight, and we don't want to carry extra weight because it means extra effort, extra energy, and we don't want that. So for us, carrying the stove, it's really like, what's wrong with you type of reaction from other climbers. But for us was, 24 hours, we just want to keep our option if we need some water. But in our case, that time it was not for water. We literally turned off the stove to warm up my feet. I was naked feet, above 25,000 feet, and I was warming up my feet. And then I suddenly saw those marks of frostbite, this line of brown of my big toe. And then I started to see them swelling immediately. I put dry socks on, put back my big boots on, and went down straight to base camp to try to avoid to have them colder. The way down, it was not as easy at the other time. The snow happened to be extremely sticky. You see, we couldn't keep up. We tried to remove the snow, and we decided to just say, what the hell? They just use them as ski and just slide. So we start sliding the hill. Luckily, finally, we start seeing base camp. So I arrived at base camp, and I happened to have only a frost nip, which is just the level before the actual frostbite. So after 1 week recovery, we had another opportunity of going for the summit. But that time, Lakpa said, Sophie, I'm done. I don't have the energy anymore. I cannot do it anymore. I'm gonna move to K2. I'm like, okay, I understand. I'm still gonna try it one more time because I still have it in me. But then I will meet you on K2. So it's like, okay. So we split up. And on that summit day, you have to see that it's not only me and Lakpa. You have expeditions and mini expeditions. So we end up on this massive summit push. We're about 40 people, 40 climbers with many different nationalities. Name it. Taiwanese, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French, Canadian, American, even Ecuadorian. And we all gather our effort because the thing is, we all know that to go to the summit, not only one person can break up the trail, we have to make some rotation. So what was interesting to me in this picture is I've been on this mountain for over a month now. I know this mountain by heart, but not quite, because I knew that with snow on it and ice on it, and as the time passed, there's no more snow, there's no more ice. The mountains just start drying up. So it's very interesting is the things change and things evolve. That we're on our way to Camp 3. Finally, we arrived to the South Col. Among the 40 climbers who start with us, everybody starts dropping, and we end up 10 people on the South Col. 3 of them, they were exhausted, they started seeing the exposure, we were about 7 hours still to climb. They're like, no, we're done. I'm not doing it. Unfortunately, one of them went just too far. The thing is, you have to understand is when somewhat easier in your head to keep going up, and you have this idea of I'm gonna go for the summit. You can still burn the fire in you. But then when you go down, and if somehow you don't reach the summit, then suddenly this big bubble which was holding you up just deflate. And then suddenly all your energy just vanished. And that is why there is so much death on the descent, much more than in the ascent. And one of my fellow climbers just tripped, and it was over. He tripped, and he fell in a giant crevasse, and he was dead. At the time, we didn't know that. We just know that at the end, when we were ready to proceed to a rescue, and they're like, no, Sophie, forget it. He fell in a crevasse, and he's already been buried by the snow, because the wind is so high. So it just reminds you that never forget that you have to go down. You cannot only think you're going up, you have to keep as much energy to go down. And I think Broad Peak is a perfect example, because our going down was everything but an easy peasy descent, if I may say. So here, that it's only, so what you do, you just go that way and then you keep climbing. It's about 20 feet wall that you actually have to do some rock climbing with no rope. With only, you have your crampons, you are like above, you're almost at 26,000 feet, you are tired. Like now, we're climbing for over 15 hours. And you have to do this climb. And if you fall, then it's a straight shoot. So people are like, including me, we start sitting, considering how do we feel? And 7 of us decide to go for it. So you do that, you cut this big rock, and then you go that way. But then you're not at the summit. Because Broad Peak is a tricky one. You have fake summits. What you do is once you arrive here, then you have to go down and up again to finally reach the summit. And that is a tough one. Because you just think of, like, let's say on Everest, you're going up and then you're going down. On Lhotse, you're going up and you're going down. On this one, no. You're going up and then you're going up and down and finally arrive to the summit. So if somehow the weather turned bad, then you are stuck. You cannot run going down. Nope, you have to just go back up and down to finally going down. So that is why it's a tricky one. That is why actually a lot of people say they summit Broad Peak, but they didn't actually reach the actual summit, they reached only the fake summit. So the ridge, here on the east is like people here. You see? So we did like this whole ridge here. And the funny thing is, every single time, you see, there's a little peak. And to be honest with you, for me, they look pretty much all the same height. And I'm like, yeah, we're here! And they're like, no, next one. I'm like, okay. And I go to the next one. I'm like, yeah, we're here! And they're like, no, next one. I'm like, really? And it just goes on and on and on for hours. And finally, we reach it. We reach the summit. Put my prayer flag, and we celebrate. Start seeing some clouds, start seeing the weather changing. You see, here's a cloud and here's the good weather. That's a bad sign. You have to leave. The way down was a little bit tricky. Out of the 7 climbers who actually summit Broad Peak that day with me, we all got dispatched. I ended up with another climber girl, a German girl, and you have to see, like now you still see a little bit, like what you can see what's going on, but then very soon it's going to be dark, and the only thing you can see is what your headlamp allow you to see. And that's going to be, it's become very tricky, because you do agree with me, with your headlamp, you look here, and then you look here, and it's all snow, and then pieces of rock, so it's very easy to actually get lost. And it's exactly what happened. When we arrived at Camp 3, so about 23,000 feet, up we are the first one. We logged a 23-hour summit day, which was a pretty good time. Then 2 hours later, another group just came down, meet us at Camp 3, and we're like, what about, it's missing 2, where are they? And we're like, we don't know. They got lost. And that's a trick. It's, now imagine yourself going up and down. You don't eat, you almost don't drink, because drinking meaning you have to carry kilos because it's liters, so it's heavy. So you limit everything you can. And the worst is, like, you're so optimistic in your head, you just say, yeah, I'm going to do that in 20 hours. No, you don't. You do that in 30 hours. So how do you make up for those 10 hours? Well, you do not. What you have is you become exhausted, starving, thirsty, and the worst is you start, the altitude starts eating you up, and then you start having, having illusions. So those 2 climbers, they were lost, but actually they were very close to our base camp. to our camp, but they couldn't, they didn't know. After 6 hours, or almost giving it up, like you prepare yourself, okay, it's not gonna happen for me. Suddenly, one of the climbers realized he has a GPS on him, and he finally plugged it in, and was like, oh my god! And then he was just here in 2 hours at camp. So they were safe. That is a river. I told you the weather changed. Before, it was we could just walk above it. After a month and a half, it became a giant, very powerful river that actually we could see the base camp. And the worst is, to the end, a summit, it's only a summit when you are back to base camp. And you could see, even touch the base camp, but you still have to cross this river. If you fall in this river, you are just washed out. It's so powerful and so cold, basically you die. So to the end, you have to face many different types of dangers. That night, not only you celebrate the summit, that night we didn't celebrate the summit. The very next day, the whole expedition split up. We just had this very bittersweet feeling. We lost Jeff. Those two guys were lost. It was just a bad night for everyone. So I was on my way to go. I was me and two other climbers. Two others that just wanted to trek to see what was K2 base camp, and I was going to climb K2. And we were going to K2 base camp, which is normally only a 3 hours walk from Broad Peak camp. Base camp to K2 base camp, which is, according to everyone, is not a bigger deal. Well, guess what? If you just stuck in a snowstorm with zero visibility, you get lost, and we get lost. And we get so lost that we had no idea where we are, and we didn't even know if we were on the right glacier. Can you believe that? So this whole 3 hours turned out as a disaster of maybe 10 hours, and we were going down, passing all those rivers for nothing. We finally somehow there was a tiny bit of visibility, and we could even see K2, anything around us. So whenever we were able to have a little bit of visibility, we could see where we are, and then we find K2 base camp. I had only 48 hours of rest. I was psychologically, mentally, physically drained by this effort of my 4 summit attendants. And in 2 days, I was going to climb K2, one of the most dangerous climbs in the world. So I was able to just find it in me. And what is interesting is, if your mind is not in the game, don't play the game. That is an avalanche. No one even cares anymore. It's part of our decor, The issue is, this avalanche is actually the way we're gonna go up. So, as I did mention before, for the summit day, to actually lower the probability to get caught in an avalanche is to climb by night, is what you do. You start by night. Climbing K2 by night. So here I actually climb the session route. So you have different routes. The session route is a little bit more technical, it's a little bit more steep, straightforward. It's what I like, it's my style. I prefer this vertical stuff. So the route is going to be like that, and like that, and like that. That's the way we're going. So we do climb, we're going to start by night. Here, that's the flags. That would be important for the summit, because for the summit there is this kind of plateau that you have the tendency to get lost easily. It looks like this big football field, but if there's a little bit low visibility, you just get lost, and then you die there. So that's why we carry those flags, if you were wondering. So that base camp is over there, and then that we're halfway to Camp 1. We did our plan was doing a K2 speed ascent, which was skipping Camp 1, exactly like Broad Peak. So go straight to Camp 2, Camp 3, Camp 4, summit, go down. So the idea was doing the whole thing in 5 days, basically. pretty ambitious, I have to say. But everybody was feeling really strong, and we were a strong team. What is key for me at this time is we were only 10 climbers on the whole mountain. It's a giant mountain. Normally it's full of expedition. That year, we were only 10 climbers to climb K2. The big disadvantage, once again, is we have to break the trail and carry everything. The big advantage is we are limiting the rock form and the ice form created by the other climbers. And that is when it's getting kind of important, because that is a spicy traverse. And here it's spicy because here you have avalanche, rockfall, and then you stuck because you cannot move. And here you have to walk on those big rocks with like thin ice, and if you fall, it's a drop. That's why it's a spicy traverse. That is our Camp 2. Our Camp 2, it's pretty exposed. Here there's a big drop, and here on the top you have this roof. Above you is like massive rock. And you think, my God, this thing is gonna just smash me. And you don't even know how they're holding. It's just unbelievable. And it was so exposed that we had to anchor our tent to the rock because the wind would just wiped out our tent, and because we were so close to like here, the drop, then we would just fall. This tent here is my K2 tent, it's that tent. It's a 2-person tent, single wall. That I'm cooking now, that is the stove I was talking about. And why it's important? It's because starting Camp 2, actually, Lakpa, Louis, who is a German climber, and me, happened to sleep 3 of us in this tent. And what was very unfortunate for us is we were the rookie, so it was our first time on K2. So we had the total rookie treatment, which was starting about 3 to 4 hours before anyone else, about the versions like that, they could sleep, wake up, take a nice, breakfast when it's warm. We have to wake up every day at 2 a.m., start the climb at 3 a.m. It was freezing cold, and I personally get cold easily. And then we have to break the trail, and they were passing us, finishing up the job, and just every time take the best tent spot. And then we're like, really? So we always end up to be the last one. We no more place to pitch your tent. You have to build something as you can. And that's why we end up here, by the way. And it was just really tough mentally. And the worst is like, we had to carry even more than anyone. So I think it's a little bit bittersweet on my whole K2 climb, but it feels really great, this friendship we developed with Lakpa and Lois. That is the view from Camp 2. That is actually, you remember when I told you, which glacier are we? We don't even know if we're on this glacier or this glacier. So here that's base camp of Broad Peak, and that is where we come from. That's the Bachelor Glacier. When you climb K2, there's a bunch of ropes. You just don't know where those ropes come from, so you can either use it or leave it and do your climb. You take your own chance. That's when we go into Camp 3. We get in some altitude. We have to walk on edges, on both sides. And then that is our Camp 3. And that is our Camp 3. Again, we try to anchor the tent just to make sure the tent is not falling, Don't forget to trim this tent, so we absolutely don't try to move too much either, because we don't want to roll down the whole, slide. That, it was, I think, to me, personally, the most tricky aspect of it is, as we were starting first, and I hated it to walk on this type of rocks, because the angle is very steep, and any rock you would make it loose can be fatal to one of the other climbers. So I really don't feel comfortable so much about that. But thankfully, we finally reached some snow pretty fast, and that is the way we were doing that day to reach to Camp 3. That is actually a picture I took from Broad Peak, and that is when you are actually on K2. That's we here. So we go to Camp 4 and we sleep, and that's K2, and we get so that's for Brook Field I was telling you, we're gonna pitch our flag there, then we're gonna climb, and then we're gonna just reach the summit. So we could touch it, it's just there. And as usual, we had to start first, so we were starting early. And next thing you know, it was a whiteout. And that is heartbreaking, because that means your summit is over. And that means that you're not going to climb K2 this year. And that's me, being sad. Being pretty sad, actually. And then you go down. But look at that, it's not worth it. We just take we rest. Keep going down. You just go down so fast. It takes 2 days to climb up, and then you just go down the whole mountains in a day. We arrived to Camp 2, and the climber before us, two things happened. Actually, we actually lost contact with them, and we don't know what happened. We thought it was an avalanche. So, as I told you, around, you remember the big picture with the big avalanche? That's really bad. That's in the afternoon. We were early afternoon at Camp 2. We decided to say, okay, that's it. We're not going to take any chance. We're just going to wait tomorrow morning. Better snow condition, better consolidation. We're going to go down to base camp. The other two guys, they said, no, we're going to take a chance. And we lost contact with them. So we thought they'd just die, And the next thing you know, after a few hours, about 8 hours, they end up to show up at base camp. And what happened is, it was not an avalanche. They didn't cut an avalanche. They were going down, and the famous rope I was telling you, just be careful to it, broke. They just fell and somehow stopped by miracle on a rock. Nothing happened to them. Another miracle. And then stand up and, put it together and go down to base camp. In our case, the very next day, so we keep going down. That is actually famously from, they call it a chimney. So it's actually pretty narrow. It's a small couloir. We were still, that's getting really rocky, so that's actually Camp 1. And that is me and my backpack. My backpack was so heavy that I had to actually lean forward. It's what I climbed with on K2. So that was my adventure. So that is Broad Peak, view from K2. Another summit here. And that is K2, which would even summit. But that's okay, because my whole climbing journey, it wasn't not so much about climbing per se. You cannot be successful and you just focus only on the summit. You get overwhelmed by the greed and your ego and your fear to fail yourself or fear to fail someone else. You have to actually be able to do it genuinely. And that's why, for me, try 4 times to climb Broad Peak. It was not great. I did it because I could. I was just feeling good. And for me, not going to summit of K2, well, I didn't do it because I couldn't, because the weather was not there, and then we had to go because we had no more food, nothing. So with the last 3 months I spent in Pakistan, I ended up to spend, out of 90 days, I spent 80 days over 15,000 feet. So 15,000 feet and above. That was my journey of climbing Broad Peak and K2. Yes?
I'm floored at what you know is your life, but I'm very curious on a personal basis. Why fencing, judo, climbing, rugby? What is it about you that makes you do these things to that perfection?
Oh.
It's not casual sports. This is very competitive nature. But I was trying to figure it out. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it's come from my childhood. I'm actually like a very severe dyslexia. I have very severe dyslexia, and I could not express myself for the longest time. So I really find myself into music and actually into sport. And for me, sport is always been more than only sport. It's been a way to express myself. And same as music, I could. Why I chose so many different sports? It's initially I was a tennis player, and tennis, my friends, become my family. I become randomly in judo because I knew someone who did judo. You know it works. And fencing was I was working on my school, and around 22 years old, I'm like, I want to be world champion of something. And then I came up with this exclusive list. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do a ball sport because I did tennis, so no racket sport. I did a handball like that, so no ball sport, no basketball, no volley, it's over. I did judo, so done with the martial art. At the time, by the way, rugby, it's a true men's sport in France, which I didn't know we could play as a woman. In America, I'd been told it was more like a women's sport, so I'm like, oh, okay, I can do it. But anyway, at age 22, I came up with doing kayak. But I was at the time living in Paris, so it was, not feasible. Sailing, which again, not feasible, and then fencing. And to be honest with you, fencing, I never even saw in my whole life fencing. That was the whole point. And I always believe that whatever your experience and expertise in life is not necessarily one-time shot thing. It's you just carry on, and you reuse it, and you create synergy with with what you learn. And why I was suddenly so good in fencing, very fast actually, basically I show up in fencing and they're like it was the beginners, and they're like, oh, come back tomorrow for the advanced, and I show up at the advanced, and go back the day after for the competition. I'm like, okay, and 3 weeks later I was this champion of the whole region of Paris, and 3 months later, as Björn said, I was able to win the tournament to be selected for the World Cup, and then I went to the World Cup. And it was a great adventure, and for me, sport, it's really a way of expressing myself. When you climb, for instance, I use it as a self-introspection way. I like thinking about me, try to understand what's going on in my own body. I'm pretty intellectual. I love thinking of details and appreciating those things. So basically, if I think I'm gifted in sport, it's only because I don't play sport, despite the fact I've been highly successful in sport. I don't compete against myself. I don't even compete for other people. I just make it be alive, basically. Yeah. Yes?
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I want to be, first of all, I admire you for climbing a K2. I'm an armchair climber, and I know it's the most difficult mountain in the world. Just getting there is difficult. Did you use any Sherpas No, you didn't?
No.
No. Oh. So you did it on your own?
Yeah.
You say it so matter-of-factly, but I think it's pretty unusual. Secondly,
It is. It's no. It's I was basically I was an independent climber, and I joined an expedition group. But in my case, I was just joining this expedition group just to share the common good, which is the tent, the base camp. But I was independent, therefore I could come up with my own strategy. I was doing everything on my own. So whatever picture you saw, actually, that's why it was so much harder for us, because my big backpack, as you saw, I was carrying 2 tents. It just, I did it all by myself.
yeah, the second question, who is your female climbing mentor?
I don't. I have no female mentor. I don't.
No female mentors?
No. I have a rough time in the climbing community because I just, I don't look like a climber, and I never even been a climber so much before. I was working in New York City. I was actually being a fencer, and I just quit everything and to become a mountain climber. And I'm in my 30s, and a lot of people felt very in competition with me. For many reasons. First of all, like if you always dream to climb, and then someone from out of the blue show up and climbs, like what's wrong? That's not fair. You cannot do that. So that the first part was pretty bad. They were really mean to me. Then the second thing was, those people in their 30s like me, they try to climb for years and they never really summit or achieve something that they think was an achievement. And therefore that I was in direct competition with them. Because if I was successful, therefore it meant that they were not successful. So I actually end up having a great support among the 50 and above, the pioneer climbers. And they were being very helpful. And I had a great support as well from a very young crowd, which more like the early 20s. The early 20s because they were full of hope and admiration, and we were all on the same page, let's all do it and try to make something happen. And the older crowd was, well, I already done it all. If I done it all, I already know I didn't do it all, So it was so no female mentor, and I think I end up to be more toward the 50 and above crowd to actually find mentors and people who were supporting me. Yes?
I couldn't tell too well from the pictures. I was wondering, did you climb K2 without oxygen all the time?
Yes.
And if so, you did?
Yes.
Did you have any serious after effects from the thin air?
No.
Even up at
6,000 feet and sleeping well? No. That's the thing is, I just have this ability to, I don't even know why. And I don't know why I have this tolerance for altitude. And I'm able to just go and climb, and I have videos of me, and I'm like that, like all smiley and very, you would not even guess, like, I'm at 23,000 feet, and the day before I was at 15,000 feet. And a week before I was at sea level. So I don't have that, saying that I didn't use oxygen because I don't need it. Saying that, I never think I was like this super person. So I always carry oxygen in my backpack just in case, because I think it just can happen at any time. So just in case, I would have no hesitation to plug the oxygen if I need it. I have no problem with that. Yeah. Yes?
A couple of questions. When you're not climbing a mountain or doing something extreme, but it's just an ordinary day, do you work out? Do you go to the YMCA for a few hours or anything like that? What's your daily routine?
Well, actually, do you have the internet here?
Yes.
I would show you a picture because I think it's very interesting. My own okay. When I quit my job, I was actually happened to be this investment banker, and I was a fencer for the New York Athletic Club in New York. And it took me 6 months, from November to March. My only goal was putting on weight. I was doing a fattening diet. So I actually did zero sport. Because if I was doing any sport, I would just burn, because I burn very fast. So I was able to gain 30 pounds. And then I actually, on show you and Lottie, I lost my 30 pounds in 7 weeks. And that was the issue with me. It's interesting. My issue is how to keep my body mass, because I have more like this hyper metabolism. So it was a struggle. So after I finished climbing Lottie, which is the first high peak in the world, I was in Kathmandu, and my only job was eating for 1 month. I was able to try to build up a little bit, and I was able to go to those climbs with a little bit more fat. The issue then after keto, actually, in Pakistan, I got sick and I lost lots of weight, and I couldn't catch up with my weight to finally, fattening a little bit more, and then I was able to go up. But for me, it's a huge challenge. And actually, fat is extremely good, because fat's gonna help you to keep yourself warm. It's gonna be a good food, if you start having not enough food anymore, you can start eating yourself, basically. So actually fat is very good, but so the answer is no daily routine. I was doing zero sport, because my only purpose is to gain weight. Saying that, you have to see before that, I was extremely athletic. I was fencing every day for a few hours, every weekend for 5-6 hours, so I was extremely fit. So my problem was not the fitness aspect, it was really more like the body mass. I had to gain body mass, which seems very funny problem for a lot of people, but it's actually very difficult to gain weight when you want to gain weight.
So a little technical question.
Yeah.
In general,
Yeah.
did you use the ropes that you found on the mountain that were left by other climbers? I mean, did you trust the ropes?
No. No, I don't, because no, I don't.
I mean, sometimes they leave them on the mountain, don't they? When
They do.
come down?
That's why, one of the pictures, there
Yes.
was a lot of ropes.
A lot of ropes.
And that's the issue is, you cannot play this game. It's like, okay, which one I'm going to take? And then you pick up the wrong one, So that is actually that only a climber judgment call. I'd rather to just, because of my previous training, my 2 years training of strong alpine, I was able to feel comfortable dealing with rock, and so no, I was not. I'd rather not use like old ropes. Yes.
I understand you have a 2-year-old daughter now, and you're writing children's books. And so I'd be interested to know what the message is that you're both giving to your daughter, and what the message is in those children's books. But also, second part is, what's your next adventure?
Thank you for asking. Well, my daughter, when she was born, at 2 weeks old, I showed her MC Escher book, and it's those black and white drawing with a lot of more like a mathematical architectural pattern, and she was fascinated by it. And to me, I couldn't understand, and I think that was a trigger. It was extremely counterintuitive, and I think this counterintuitivity puzzled me, and I started reading about it to try to understand what actually an infant see, how does actually a baby brain works, and what do they appreciate, and what are their abilities. And so I wrote a book series based on baby cognitive development, what a baby can actually perceive and see, and how to stimulate and engage a baby, in hope to promote actually bonding, but as well promoting love of reading and eager to learn. So it was my book about. I've been successful with that. And my next challenge would be to actually empower people and coach and speak and and help people in not only in their decision making, but empower them to climb their own Everest. Empower them to climb their own Everest. So that would be my next challenge.
And for your daughter? What's your goal for your daughter?
Oh, that's the thing is, it's so funny because people think I'm an overachiever. And that's very odd for me, because for me I just do things, you know, and I don't even think twice about it. And in my daughter, same thing, I don't really mind. She can be anything and do anything, I don't care. In a way that I'm not like, try to just, force things on her, force the whole. I'm a big believer in playing for a child is very important. I really believe in creativity and how just let the baby brain develop in his own way. I just don't want to force too much on her. Like, those flashcards is very popular now. Like, okay, do your ABC, flashcard, not a zebra, is a lion, and those kind of things. I'm preschool for that. Yes?
Is everyone in your family the same, like overachievers? They're all your parents and siblings there? Is it
No,
genetic?
actually it's very funny because my family, when I say I climb Everest, I just make it sound like, oh, I'm gonna just buy a baguette, it's kind of like really no big deal. And my mother was in Italy, and I called her, I summit Everest, and she was saying to her friend, oh, my daughter just summit Everest. I'm like, what? What did? And I think they used to, nothing really bothered them, nothing impressed them. That's the thing. I mean, I just don't even say it. Like when I was fencing, they didn't even know I was fencing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did this World Cup. They're like, oh really? So I'm like, oh yeah, and then I don't have that. My family, they just. That's all, yeah, they know. And no one even do sports in my family anyway. So no one is even into sport, period. No, so it's different game.
One more question. Will you continue to climb and do other extreme sports now that you're a mother?
No.
That's all.
Yeah. It's really important. I mean, I see life in a kind of in a book, you have chapters. And I think it's very important, at least for me, to just close a chapter. It's healthy. I just closed it and I just moved on. I have no regret closing it, and I just love what I've done. But I do know the risk, and I was able to do it because I had no responsibilities. I was not married, I didn't have kids. It's a different thing, it's a different games. If you start climbing and you're not mentally there, if you start second questioning yourself and you start, oh, what if you at the wrong place? At least you're at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Great. Well, we're